And I still maintain that a simple decision to make a shift can be powerful enough to cause the shift without you having to do anything else. Welcome to the Energy Within podcast, helping you to beat imposter syndrome, embrace your weirdness, and fully step into your soul's purpose. Is that what I said last time? I don't remember. I'm still solidifying the new way I want to word the intro. But my name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master teacher, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 166, coming to you again from the car on the iPhone. And I know we've talked about this topic before in the past, but I want to mention it again because it's an idea that I had written down, and then I've been getting some stories and feedback from people that this is a thing, that it's happening. The advice to just start. So wherever you are in your journey of self-confidence, of healing emotionally, spiritually, or even physically, even if you do not yet fully embrace your weirdness, even if you do not yet fully accept or understand your soul's purpose, but you're trying and you know that there's something more there for you, or you just simply have an idea in your head of something that you want to do, or a side hustle or a business that you want to grow, or just the person that you want to be, to first of all decide that you're going to start, but most importantly, to just start. To go back a little bit to something that I mentioned when I had attended Marketing Impact Academy Live, if you recall what I was feeling a lot around the questions that people tend to ask, not just there, but over the years in different seminars and conferences and whatnot that I've attended, where people ask questions. And while I do feel it's not wrong to ask any questions, there's no bad question, there's nothing wrong with you because you didn't already know or accept the answer ahead of time to the question you stood up to ask. The thing that I always end up thinking, though, which tends to stop me from asking a lot of questions, which has, good and bad sides to that too, is that once the question is formed, I always feel like, okay, while there could be very specific details that could be used to answer this question, I already know, somewhere in me, I already know the answer to this. And it's probably something as simple as ask somebody, or Google it, or go get a book, or just pick something, just pick a website host and just start setting up your website. Go to YouTube if you can't figure out some troubleshooting when you get stuck. Hire somebody if you need to when you get stuck. We all know really the answers. If there was ever a more tangible 3D example of we already have all the answers we need within us, usually we mean that spiritually, but for real, I'm willing to bet that at least for the most part, you have consumed enough information over your years that you at least know the basic answer to whatever question you feel you need to ask about yourself and about what to do next and about what your purpose is. You already know. And trying to come up with questions or reasons why you haven't taken the next step is really kind of just a coping mechanism out of fear. Out of maybe fear of failure, maybe fear of success, fear of showing up and being made fun of. all the different things that we could possibly be afraid of. Those are the reasons that we're not taking the steps forward, no matter how simple they are. We're overcomplicating it. We're overthinking it. And I am so guilty of this myself. I guarantee that's why I am not further along where I want to be business-wise and otherwise, because I have many times not taken the simple step of just going and just starting. But I have learned from experience that when I do just do something, there's always a great result. It almost always turns out better than I expected. And if for some reason it doesn't, not to sound cheesy or cliche, but for real, I did at least learn something. And if you do just start something, because I know we always hear these examples, or maybe you haven't, but let's use the example of network marketing. If you've ever been in network marketing and maybe you've struggled to rank up to the next level, and it's, maybe you've been in it for a few months or even a few years and you're still struggling, and you hear all the time about these people who signed up and then 2 days later or a week later, they're like diamond level or super executive level or whatever the levels are called, platinum, and it's like, come on. Now, I'm not saying this is true of everybody, but just in that particular example, let me help you feel a little bit better. A lot of times, I'm pretty sure what people are doing in that sense is signing up their family members. Like, they're signing up their husband who's not really going to work the business. They're convincing their sisters or their best friends, like, hey, would you sign up, even just for a little bit? And, they're not a real team member that's going to be working the business. So there's secrets behind that. But nonetheless, that can make us feel really bad. We're like, look at all these people who just shot up, or the people who really did do it legitimately, but they were still able to make it happen in like a couple of months. And here we are still spinning our wheels and struggling years later. I'm not resentful. I'm fine. Everything's fine. But I know that feeling. And I know what it is like to hear advice like this. We're like, just start. Or you hear all the overnight success stories. These people finally just took a risk and the next day they made their first $1 million. I understand. And I'm not trying to say that these giant outcomes are what we should even be expecting or aiming for. When we just start, I'm okay with playing a little small here. I'm okay with, even though I think we should dream big, we should think big, we should take big steps. Sometimes a baby step, a little eeny tiny little baby step, a half of a baby step, can be a big step. It can feel like a big step because you finally broke over that hurdle. And trust me, the relief you're going to feel when you finally take even just that tiny little baby step. Even if, so here's the completion of my original thought. Even if you take this step, you just start and it doesn't work out. Nothing happens. Maybe you get crickets. Maybe you get a ton of no's. Maybe you trip and fall on your face, either literally or metaphorically. I know no one tends to want to hear this, but what's the lesson there? What do you need to adjust in your wording? What do you need to adjust in how you interact with people? What do you need to adjust just simply about your own energy or your mindset? And I still maintain that a simple decision to make a shift can be powerful enough to cause the shift without you having to do anything else. Sometimes it's just the decision that takes the weight off of your shoulders, that shifts your focus, that changes your perspective, which changes your mindset, which changes your thoughts, which changes your emotions, which changes your actions. So it's a whole long loop. So the moral of the story is not really to stop asking questions altogether. Sometimes we do need some help. I'm not telling you not to reach out for help, or not to look something up. In the 3D human sense, yeah, sometimes we don't have all the answers and we need to go do something about it. But that's the point. Do something about it. The point is to stop asking questions about how or making excuses that you don't know how and figuring it out. If you have to, treat it as if it's something that your life depends on, whatever you need to make this decision and do something about. Because an example I've heard before was if a family member of yours, someone you loved deeply, got super sick and you had to figure out how to save their life in, let's say in 24 hours, you would figure it out. You would Google everything. You would reach out to everybody you knew and you wouldn't care what their response was. You would only be seeking out the responses that were going to be helpful or give you advice that you could at least try. You wouldn't feel bad about annoying somebody by reaching out to them because that's the least of your worries. So make things like that the least of your worries and focus on what you need to do. Go ahead and ask the questions that you need to ask, but don't let yourself get in your own way. Really think about what can you do? What is in your control? Break the steps down as far as you need to. Take the smallest step possible, but just take a step. And I know imposter syndrome is a huge thing that holds us back too. Because in relation to this, looking it up and trying to figure it out, finding out what other people have done, how other people say it, how other people do it. I don't know if you felt this way ever, but something that tends to stop me is the worry that I'm simply regurgitating what other people have said and how other people do things. And that's what's going to make me an imposter, because why should I bother doing anything if other people have already gone before me and said what needs to be said and done what needs to be done, and they have their proven methods and their proven thought process that has already helped people. But go back and remember that we are all unique. Absolutely no one, no matter how similar someone else ever could possibly be to you in their experiences and how they grew up and how they tend to look at things, no one has your unique combination of experiences and perceptions and beliefs. And all of that put together makes your interpretation of the same information different. And somebody needs it that way from you. They may not know it yet, but they are waiting for you to show up with your unique way of talking about it and doing it and holding space for them and uplifting them. Whatever it is that you are seeking to do, someone's waiting for your way of doing it. And it might just be one person in the beginning. But if you keep going, you keep learning yourself, you keep trying things out yourself, and you'll eventually develop your own method, your own way, your own interpretation that you feel comfortable sharing, even if it sounds similar to how someone else says it. So all of that said, I do have something that I want to invite you to. And I originally, yes, I did say that Black Friday weekend through Cyber Monday was the only time I was going to offer this at this price. But I realized that I hadn't mentioned anything about it on the podcast. So while the Black Friday deals specifically themselves are definitely done, because if you listen to the podcast, you should already be on my email list and or in the Facebook group. So if you're not on either of those, make sure you find your way there. There's links below in the show notes that you can use to find the link for the group and find different ways that you can hop onto the email list for free and get amazing things in return, like all of the meditations that I released on the podcast back in March of this year. But what I am going to extend, perhaps through, maybe I'll give it another week. Maybe I'll give it until the next podcast comes out, because I know not everybody listens to this on release day itself. But I have a new program, the one I've been teasing about, and it's called Unshackled. And I don't have all of the details figured out yet. I have many of them figured out, but not all of them. For example, I know we're going to start in January. I don't know what day yet. It's looking right now like it's going to be an 8-week, fully live program designed for a group setting. So everything will be on Zoom. All the recordings will be available, but obviously you'll want to try to be there live for everything. But the program is intended to help you get rid of imposter syndrome. There's going to be some inner child healing, some past life healing. We're going to open the Akashic Records for that. There's going to be some root chakra work, which is what sparked the initial foundation for this program, is helping you to feel safe, to take those scary steps and put yourself out there. And I may even throw you to the wolves at one point. There's going to be some real-time just do it exercises, which we'll talk a lot more about as we enter the program. But obviously, as I don't have all of the details quite figured out, I haven't done any kind of official launch, but I did over Black Friday weekend, and I'm going to extend this just a little bit. If any of this sounds like it is for you, and you can go to the website and you can look at the page and read more detail about what I'm intending to put in there, knowing that it may change still. But if you feel like this might be for you, I'm offering you the opportunity to get super early bird pricing, and perhaps even also add on Reiki 1 for a little bit of a discount in addition. So I'll put the link in the show notes. I'd love for you to go check it out. Please ask any questions that you might have about it. Understand that it's not fully solidified and all put together yet, but the bare bones structure and intention of it is there. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there to see what happens. So this is me just starting. Who knows if this is going to take off or not, how many people we're going to get in it, but I'm putting it out there and giving it a shot. So let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, just go ahead and jump on it. And of course, I'll give you even more details as everything gets figured out and as we get closer. But if you want to make sure that you get in because you know this is for you, take advantage of this pricing, because when I do an official launch, it's not going to be at this price. So that is where I will leave it. I just wanted to make sure that if by chance you're not on the email list or in the Facebook group, that you have the opportunity to take a look and get in on this. So if any of this episode resonated with you, if it maybe helped shift your perspective, or maybe you've made the decision now, please share this on your social media. Tag me on Instagram at I am Carrie Jokala, or simply even send it to a friend. Leave a rating or a review, ideally a 5-star rating and a positive review. I really appreciate all of the sharing and the help to get the word out to help the show grow. That's where I'll leave it. I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.